What I like about your book is you admit to being a shitty actress when you start. People don't talk about that. Acting, like anything else, you have to work hard at it.
Yeah.
You know, you were kind of a delightful kid and everything, but at the same point, when you'd get on these TV shows and you'd get bit parts, you said you were kind of shitty at it.
I still might be.
You think you're still a shitty actress?
Probably.
Why?
Not great.
King of Queens, I mean, that puts you on the map.
Yeah,
Everybody
but even,
knows
certain shows, the kid go like, oh my God, Leah is so mugging. Like, I'm like, my accent got thicker. I was like, what the hell? But anyway,
I like your class. I like that you auditioned for Friends, for example.
Yeah.
I think that's great. I mean, imagine if you'd gotten that part.
Right.
You
it
auditioned,
wasn't meant to be.
You auditioned for the Courtney Cox
Yes,
role,
exactly.
right, on
Yeah,
Friends.
yeah.
Most people know her as the quick-tongued wife from Queens, but there's a version of Leah Remini's story that never quite made it into the laugh track. And that version is far more interesting than any sitcom. Imagine being 8 years old and watching your entire world get reorganized around a single belief system, one that would shape your education, your friendships, your career, and eventually your self-worth. Now, imagine spending the next 3 decades trying to quietly reconcile what you were told to believe with what you could see with your own 2 eyes, and then, one day, deciding you were done, being quiet. That's Leah Remini, not just the actress from that beloved sitcom about a delivery driver and his opinionated wife, but a woman who spent most of her adult life balancing on a tightrope between loyalty and truth, and who, in her 50s, finally chose truth. In this video, we're going to trace the full arc, from a working-class Brooklyn childhood to Hollywood breakout, from 9 seasons of sitcom gold to a messy public exit from one of the world's most controversial organizations, and we'll uncover a few things about her that even dedicated fans might not know. Leah Remini was born in Brooklyn, New York in 1970, the second of 6 children in a household where money was always tight and noise was always abundant. The family dynamic was loud, funny, emotionally charged, and deeply New York. Those qualities would later become her greatest professional asset. Growing up, she was drawn to television the way other kids are drawn to sports or music. She describes watching I Love Lucy as a child and hearing the sound of the studio audience laughing, that warm, rolling tide of laughter, and feeling an almost magnetic pull toward it. That sound meant connection. It meant belonging. It meant that someone had made a room full of strangers feel something together. She wanted that. When she was 13, the family relocated to Los Angeles, partly for opportunity, partly because Scientology's organizational heart was there. It was a big move, and not an easy one. By 14, Leah had made the decision to drop out of school entirely and pursue acting full-time. That's not a dramatic Hollywood myth. It happened. She was 14 years old, living in a new city, with no diploma and a plan that most adults would have called reckless. She got a talent agent at 16. Her very first professional credit came as a guest on Who's the Boss, and that led to a starring role in its short-lived spin-off, Living Dolls, which ran for 1 season in 1989. The show didn't survive, but the exposure did what early TV roles are supposed to do. It put her name in the room. Throughout the early 90s, she kept working, picking up roles wherever she could find them, Saved by the Bell, Blossom, Cheers. Not starring roles, but consistent work. She was building a reputation as someone who showed up, hit her marks, and made even small scenes land. In Hollywood, that's currency. In 1998, Leah Remini walked into an audition that would change everything. The CBS sitcom, The King of Queens, needed someone to play Carrie Heffernan, a legal secretary, sharply opinionated, quick with a one-liner, completely convinced she was the smartest person in any room she entered. The character was equal parts exasperating and endearing, and the show's producers needed someone who could play that balance without tipping it too far in either direction. Leah didn't have the full script going in. What she had was a prior meeting with Kevin James, the comedian playing the lead role of Doug Heffernan, and a chemistry test that apparently answered every question the producers had. The two of them had an almost natural comedic rhythm, the kind you can't manufacture and can't teach. The show ran for 9 seasons. Think about that for a moment. In an industry where most shows are cancelled before they find their footing, The King of Queens held its audience for the better part of a decade, eventually wrapping up in 2007. The ensemble around her grew into a remarkable collection of talent. Kevin James, Jerry Stiller as her perpetually difficult father, and a younger Patton Oswalt in a recurring role as a co-worker. At the time, none of them were the household names they'd later become. The show ended not because of declining ratings or creative exhaustion, but largely because Kevin James's film career was beginning to accelerate. He's been candid about not wanting the show to end on a low note, a rare act of creative discipline in a business that tends to milk successful properties until they collapse under their own weight. Leah has said she deeply respected that choice, even as she grieved it. In a BuzzFeed interview, she said, "I can't really watch the reruns because I still feel that show in my bones." That's not a throwaway quote. That's a woman describing something closer to bereavement than career disappointment. The King of Queens wasn't just a job to her, it was a home. And like all homes, leaving it meant figuring out who she was without it. I loved the show and was actually a little surprised by it ending so soon. A little known detail is Leah Remini is a trained mezzo-soprano. She has sung professionally on multiple occasions and has spoken in interviews about how much music means to her, a side of her creative life that rarely gets mentioned alongside the acting career. To understand Leah Remini, you have to understand that Scientology wasn't something she chose as an adult trying to find spiritual direction. It was simply the water she grew up in. Her mother joined the church when Leah was 8 years old. From that point forward, it structured nearly everything: her schooling, her social circle, her moral framework, the way she understood success and failure. By the time she was a working actress, she was a dedicated member of the church. She climbed through its ranks. She donated money. She recruited. She believed, with the kind of conviction that comes not from adult deliberation, but from a lifetime of immersion, that she was part of something important. While the Scientology story was unfolding, Leah still needed to build a post-King of Queens career. The opportunity that presented itself first was a seat on CBS's daytime talk show, The Talk. It was a panel format, multiple women discussing the day's news, pop culture, and personal stories. The pitch was compelling. CBS executive Les Moonves reportedly told her that each year she spent on the show would create opportunities to develop her own programming at the network. For someone with her ambitions and creative energy, that sounded like a launching pad rather than a landing spot. The reality was different. The behind-the-scenes chemistry among the panelists, which included Sarah Gilbert, Julie Chen, Sharon Osbourne, and Holly Robinson Peete, proved rocky. Leah found herself increasingly frustrated with what she saw as the show's direction. Interpersonal tensions escalated, and after a single season, she was let go. She publicly pointed to Sharon Osbourne as a key reason for her exit. Osbourne denied involvement. The dispute was never fully resolved publicly, and both women have largely moved on. But the experience wasn't without value. It taught Leah something important about the difference between environments where her instincts thrived and ones where they didn't. When producers of Dancing with the Stars first approached Leah Remini, she said no. This was not unusual for her. She had a well-developed habit of steering away from anything that exposed her to the possibility of public failure in an unfamiliar domain. Dancing wasn't something she was trained for. It wasn't something she was confident about, and confidence, at that point in her life, was something she was still actively reconstructing. But by the time season 17 rolled around, something had shifted in how she was thinking about risk. The Scientology exit had required a different kind of courage. a willingness to face institutional pressure, public scrutiny, and the loss of her entire social world. By comparison, learning to foxtrot in front of a television audience felt manageable. If you can stand up to an international organization, you can survive a paso doble. She once said, "I do things that I'm comfortable with, but if you're never stretching yourself, you're never really growing." She signed on for season 17 and was paired with professional dancer Tony Dovolani. The partnership became one of the warmest relationships to emerge from her post-Queens years. They made it all the way to the finale, finishing in 5th place, a genuinely impressive result for a self-described non-dancer. She later joked that Dovolani deserved hazard pay for his patience, and that he'd somehow become her best friend and unofficial therapist simultaneously. She returned as a guest judge in both 2019 and 2021, a sign of how much the experience had meant to her and how far she'd come from the woman who first said no. Leah Remini met Angelo Pagan in circumstances she has described with the kind of cheerful self-deprecation that is entirely on brand for her. She spotted him in a nightclub. She broke every rule she'd ever given herself about how women should approach men. She asked him directly when he got off work. She was not subtle about her interest. He was, by most accounts, charmed. It was not a smooth road. They went through counseling. They had the conversations that most couples quietly avoid. Eventually, they got married, and the preparations for their wedding became the subject of a VH1 special titled Inside Out, Leah Remini. When Kevin James launched his CBS sitcom Kevin Can Wait in 2016, Leah wasn't part of the original cast. She was watching from the outside while a different actress, Erin Hayes, played his wife. Then, in the 2nd season of the show, the creative team made a surprising decision. Hayes' character was written off, and Leah was brought in to play a new character, Vanessa Cellucci, a former law enforcement partner of Kevin's character. The decision generated controversy. Some fans were vocal in their objection, arguing that the character swap had been handled poorly and that the original dynamic of the show had been undermined. When some of the backlash reached Leah on social media, she responded with the kind of dry, unapologetic wit that has always been her signature. She tweeted back at one critical fan, "How do you really feel? I feel like you're sugarcoating it. That's hilarious." The show eventually ended after 2 seasons, but the reunion with Kevin James was a genuine pleasure for her. A reminder that some professional relationships carry enough warmth to survive long hiatuses. What came next was something she hadn't tried before, hosting a game show. People Puzzler put contestants through crossword-style trivia challenges with a $10,000 prize on the line. It was lighter fare, and she's spoken with genuine enthusiasm about the experience, specifically about the chance to interact with everyday people rather than the usual Hollywood bubble. There was something grounding about it. Less performance, more conversation. In 2022, Sophia, Leah, and Angelo's daughter left for college. And Leah Remini, actress, activist, Emmy winner, found herself sitting in a quiet house, thinking about all the things she'd never been taught. The education she received growing up within Scientology had been shaped almost entirely by the organization's own pedagogical framework, standard academic subjects, critical thinking tools, exposure to ideas outside the church's worldview. These had all been limited or filtered. For decades, she'd carried a quiet awareness of the gaps. Now, for the first time in her life, she had both the freedom and the desire to fill them. At 50 years old, she applied to New York University. She told no one. She submitted the application, waited, and when the acceptance letter arrived, she was genuinely stunned. She later described the experience with an honesty that had become her trademark. The fear that she wasn't smart enough, the weight of decades of self-doubt. In 2024, she received her associate's degree from NYU. It is, by any measure, one of the more quietly extraordinary things she's done. There were no cameras, no television special, just a woman in her 50s collecting a credential she should have had access to 40 years earlier, and choosing to hold that moment mostly for herself, and then the moment when an institution told her, simply and officially, that she was. Also in 2024, Leah and Angelo announced their separation after 21 years of marriage. To people on the outside, the news came as a genuine surprise. They had seemed, by every public measure, to be one of the more stable partnerships in an industry that tends to chew through marriages like a slow-burning fuse. Leah addressed it directly, which is exactly what anyone who knows her story would have expected. She didn't retreat into privacy or issue a carefully managed statement through publicists. She said what it was, a decision made, slowly, thoughtfully, and without bitterness. Two people who had grown and changed over 2 decades and found themselves at the end of that journey, better suited as friends and co-parents than as romantic partners. They remain close. The family structure they built around Sophia is intact. There is no villain in this story, and Leah has been clear that she doesn't intend to create one. After everything she's been through, the years of institutional pressure, the public battles, the professional reinventions, she has earned the right to let something simply end quietly, without drama, without spectacle. What comes next for her is genuinely open. She has a degree. She has her activism. She has creative projects she hasn't yet announced. She has a relationship with her daughter and her ex-husband that is, by her own account, still full of genuine affection. At 54, she is arguably more freely herself than she has ever been. Here's the thing about Leah Remini that doesn't always get said plainly enough. She is someone who, for most of her life, operated inside systems that told her what to think, what to believe, and what to want. A religion, a network, an industry. And one by one, she quietly, then very loudly, decided that she would rather choose for herself, even when choosing for herself was frightening, expensive, and sometimes lonely. The person she is today, the Emmy winner, the activist, the NYU graduate, the woman who walked away from a 21-year marriage with grace, that person was assembled from a lifetime of hard, deliberate choices. Most of them were made without a safety net. Almost none of them were made when it was easy. She found her acting voice watching I Love Lucy as a child in Brooklyn, hearing a studio audience laugh and wanting to be the reason for that sound. 50 years later, she's still reaching for something. Just not only for laughs anymore. Now it's your turn. Which chapter of Leah Remini's story hit you hardest? Drop your answer in the comments below.
If you enjoyed the video, please help our channel grow and like and subscribe. We hope to see you again soon.